Hello and welcome to all my fantastic grade 5 artists, and hello to any parents who are watching along at home as well. Everyone is welcome to join in. It's Mr. Robin here with your second art lesson, and this week guys we're carrying on with our selfie project. And what I need you to do this week, your challenge this week, is to write down all of your interests and things that you think are very personal to you. So this is going to be, guys, for creating our identity portrait, our selfie portrait that we started using last week. We're going to use lots of different elements, lots of different drawings, which are specific to us, to our interests, to our personality, and we're going to mix them with our selfie portrait. And we're going to start to do that next week. This week, it's really important that we get all of this done. So I'll just give you an example for my one, and you can then use that for the basis of like how to go about making your own page, which is basically a kind of mind map drawing of all your different interests and things that you like doing. So for my interests, I've written down, and this is just a few, guys. You don't need to write all of them, but I just thought a few, probably about 5, 6, 7 would be really good to get some really interesting different drawings. So I've written nature, books, video games, football, so soccer to everyone, films, Italy, Italian culture, Italian food, art, cats, because I've got a pet cat, and music, because music's really important to me. So these are just a few things that I think are really specific to me, that really interest me. And then what I need you to do is, before you start doing any of the drawing, but I'm going to talk to you all about that, before you do any of that, I need you to make a little collage on your computer, or collect some images on your mobile device, laptop, whatever you've got to use. Go on the internet and write down the list of things that interest you and that you really love doing, that is very specific to you, and then let's find them on Google, let's find some images for them, and let's download them so we're ready to draw from them. Okay, so this is just an example, guys, of my collage, my kind of all my different interests, and I've put them all together onto one page, just on a Word doc. And what I've done is I've taken different images from Google that I think would look really good onto my final drawing. So I'm going to use these to put onto my portrait to show my kind of personality and all my different interests in a drawing. So I've chosen, I'm going to guide you through it. So I've got video games. This is one that I really remember from my childhood. It was my first Game Boy. Football, soccer, stories. I'm really interested in Greek myths, and I really love books on mythology and fairy tale stories. So I chose that there. In the very background, I've got mountains and kind of forest, because I really love going walking, love going hiking. So I've kind of chosen that kind of nature aspect. I've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa here because I've visited Pisa a few times and I really like going to Italy. I like Italian food, Italian culture. Obviously I've got art here, so I've chosen a paint palette and a brush just to represent art. I've got a cat here. This is my pet cat at home. I've got film. So this is like a film camera this is kind of looking like a kind of vintage film camera. So what, films would have been made when they were using film, a while ago. And it's a really interesting symbol for me, I think, and I think it'd be a really interesting thing to draw. And then we've also got a guitar representing music, and I also used to play guitar. So you can see just from here that I've got a few different images and ideas that I really want to put together onto a page and to make a drawing. And I think that these images really say a lot about me. So when we're making our drawing, people can start to see your drawing, and you can kind of start to see all the different elements that you've got in that drawing, and it kind of says a lot about you without needing to write anything or needing to say anything, because your drawing is almost saying it for you. So this is what we want to create, is we're trying to create a message through our drawing by using all these different images which are very specific to us. Okay, fantastic. You can start to do that now guys, and then when you're ready, you can rejoin me and we're going to start to do some drawing. Okay guys, so you can see from my collage that I've created a kind of page using all my different interests, and I haven't made it, super detailed. And also I've used, I've got a pencil in my hand here, but you can also use pen if you're confident enough to just start to draw like that. But also it means that you can use whatever materials that you have at home available to you. Don't worry if you don't have a pencil, a pen is also fine. Other way around as well, completely fine to do it all in pencil. So what I'd like you to do, I'm just going to show you a little bit closer, all the different elements that I've got. So on like a whole page, I'd love for you just to sketch out. Doesn't need to be a really detailed drawing. Don't worry about it getting it completely accurate to the photo. Actually, all of mine pretty much aren't accurate to the photo. I've just kind of come up with my my idea of what these should look like. And because you're artists, you can start to change things. You can start to make them into your own ideas and start to use them in a way which feels more specific to you. So you can see that I've got things like the video Game Boy over here. I've got the book, I've got the mountains up there, I've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa guitar, I've got my cat, I've got paint palette, paintbrush, and film camera, football of course, obviously. So I'm going to show you a little bit how we might go about creating this collage page with our drawing. Okay guys, so once you've got a blank page, you've got your collage ready, you've got your pen or your pencil in your hand, what I want to remind you again and again in this project is, don't worry about making your drawings perfect or thinking what your drawing needs to look like at this point. It's really great just to get down the basic shape, the basic idea, and as long as it looks specifically to you, that you know what it is, then that's completely fine. So on the page, think about the different elements you've got and just break them down into the most simple form. So I'm going to start with the Game Boy, and I'm going to try, I think the most simple shape of the Game Boy is something like a rectangle. So I'm just going to start on the page. I've got a really simple rectangle. We're not looking for loads of detail at this point, guys. Just looking for a basic shape. And you can look back at your collage that you've made on your computer, on your phone, your device, that's fine. Just sketch it in really, really lightly. Don't worry about how it's looking at this point. Okay, I'm quite happy with that at this point. Might just make that a little bit darker so you guys can see. And then if you really want to, you can just start to add the shading that you can see. But it doesn't need to be really, really detailed at this point. Next I'm going to go for my football. Just a nice round circle. Football shape. And then I've got my shapes in the middle to make the football shape. Don't worry about making this really accurate at this point. It's not important. Okay? Okay, when you finish that, you can move on to something else. So I might start with my cat, and you can see what I'm doing, guys. I'm just building up the page really really slowly, but I'm starting to fill the whole page up with my kind of ideas. And this is really important because when you come to make this, when you start to use these drawings on your final portrait, you'll have a kind of a whole page of different ideas to work on first, and you can always change them on this page rather than changing them on your final portrait. And then when you're happy with them on here, you can put them straight onto your portrait. I'm quite happy with that cat. I'm not going to do too much, not going to add too much detail at this point. What else am I going to put onto here? Now I'm going to put the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And you see how I'm just straight away, I'm not worrying about how it's going to turn out, I'm just sketching it. I can always change it later if I'm not happy with it. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys pause the video, make your collage drawing, fill that page with all those different ideas, things that are really specific to you, things that you really like, and then we can move on to shading our portrait. Okay guys, so you can see that I've got to this stage now, and I think I'm ready to leave that for now, and we're going to use this, we're going to come back to it next week, and we're going to leave it right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my portrait that we started last week. So what I'd like you to do now, turn to the portrait that you had last week, and we're going to start to do the shading, and we're going to learn about how the light and the dark rests on the face. Okay guys, so I've just gone back to the title page just so I can show you a little bit about shading before we go straight into that portrait. So have your portrait ready, have it by you, and what I want you to do is I want you to watch how I'm making the light to dark shading. So, just for everyone at home, what I'm going to start by doing, I've made this little circle here, and you can practice, you can just start to make a few little circles on a page, on a spare piece of paper, just have a practice, and just do it very lightly like this. And I want you to move your pencil, you should be holding a pencil like this, but you know, if this is not comfortable for you, you should be holding it, you know, how it feels comfortable, but the closer you have your fingers to the end of the pencil, that's where you can have the most control and you can move it like this. And just use that rhythm and try and create lots of little circles. And then you can see from my one over here, this one that I did earlier, I've created a really dark shade at the bottom, and then as it gets towards the top, you can see it gets lighter and lighter, and I leave a little bit of blank page at the top because that is the really lightest part. So once you've practiced making some circles and you're quite happy with it, now we're going to make our light to dark shading. So what you need to do, have your circle ready, and then just like you were doing a moment ago, making those circles, just like I'm doing now, you're going to follow around in a circular motion. And what you want to do is you want to end up getting to about this point up here. You want to get to this point being just a small little circle without any shade in the middle. So follow around slowly, get into that rhythm. Again, you know, if you're not happy with it, just have a little practice over here. And what we're doing is we're going from pressing harder onto the page and getting slowly lighter, lighter, lighter until we get to the very top and we're really, really light on the page. Okay? So just like this. And can you see now that I'm creating a little circle at the top? And that's where the lightest part of the object is going to be. And this is just a really good way of practicing, training your hands, training your eyes to make the light to dark transition. And then what you start by doing is going down to the bottom, the kind of curve of this circle, and you go around in a semicircular motion, and you're starting to create that kind of dark shade at the bottom, and you're trying to blend it. But what works best in the drawing is if you kind of leave the lines in that you're drawing with. I don't want you to smudge your lines. I don't want you to go over the drawing and smudge it. I think when you leave in these lines, it's really more interesting for the viewer because they can kind of see how you've made the drawing, and it just gives the drawing a bit more texture, a bit more depth, and it kind of brings it to life a bit more. You can see these interesting lines. And now I'm getting a really dark line at the bottom. Okay? So now you can kind of see how you can start to build that up a little bit more. You can start to see how I'm creating a 3D looking object from going from very dark to very light. And it's just simple. You can just keep on going back over, using your pencil in this motion that I'm doing right now. And it's all just about practicing, guys. You know, you're not going to get any better unless you just have a few practices. And I think that's the best way just to train yourself. Just have a few goes and you get something like that. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a go. We're going to get our selfies back up that we drew in the first week, and we're going to get the image up. Sit somewhere really comfortable, sit at a chair at a table, get somewhere that you feel ready to do some drawing, and then we're going to use this technique of light to dark and we're going to apply it to our selfie drawing. Okay? So I'm going to let you pause the video and get to where you need to be. Okay guys, so I've got my portrait drawing back up that I started last week, and you can see that I haven't touched it at all because I want to save it for this lesson when we're going to do the shading together. And I'm going to get my selfie up again, and I'm going to have a look at where the dark areas are and where the most light areas are. And before I start the drawing, I'm just going to look and I'm going to identify on the drawing where I need to create really dark shades and where I need to create really light shades. Okay guys, so as you can see when we're looking at my drawing and then I'm looking at my selfie, I'm going to identify the dark areas, the areas where there is most shadow on my face first before I start the drawing. So I look and it's going to be around the nose, so around the nose, the nostril lines, the lines that divide the lips, so any creases, any lines in the face from smiling, around the eyes, and you can see from where the light comes in on my drawing, I'm going to reflect that from showing where the light comes in on my selfie. So the light is coming in from this side. So this side of the face, you can see it's got more light on it, and this side of the face, it's got the shadow. So I've kind of got dark areas around here, underneath the eyes, around the nose, and then it starts to get lighter and lighter. And I'm going to show you through my drawing how we're going to build up those light and dark tones. So guys, all the time that I'm doing my drawing now, I'm going to be looking at my selfie, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on which are the dark areas and which are the light areas. And as we did our practice before, our little balls of light and dark, what I'd like you to do now is think of the same idea and think how we started. So I'm going to start with the nose, and I'm just going to think about where are the dark areas, and I think that they are underneath these kind of lines here, and I'm going to make them nice and dark. Okay. And then I need to think about where the lightest part of my nose is, and it's actually about, somewhere around here. There's kind of two really light parts of my nose where the light hits it. So in between there is all our different parts of our shading. So I'm going to start by just giving a little bit of shade to my nose. And don't worry, if you go over parts that you didn't mean to, you can always rub it out, or, just change it, adjust it, don't worry too much. So I'm adding a little bit of shade now to my nose. And I'm going from really dark down here, but I'm still keeping in those original lines. So I'm not pressing too hard, so I can still see my original drawing. I'm just going to add in those lines. And what you need to remember is that, also it's your first time doing this, maybe. Some of you might have done it before, but don't worry about trying to make it really lifelike, naturalistic at the beginning. This is just about you practicing. But also, I think what you need to keep in mind is that just using your pencil really lightly, softly, creating that subtle tone on your page, that's how you're going to create the most effective way of creating your drawing. Because if you press really hard at the beginning and you realize that you're not happy with it, you're going to have to take it away. So you can see, I'm just using that motion of creating light and dark. I'm looking where the dark lines are, putting them in, but I'm giving a little bit of shade to my nose. And I know up here at some point my nose is going to be quite light. And then I can see actually there's another dark area on my nose. It's around about here, underneath the really light part. So you can kind of see that I've got a few different shades going on now. I've got really dark lines there, a kind of light shade around, and then a bit darker, and then a really light highlight in the middle. And then if I go over, I think, oh no, I've gone over there. That's where my light areas needs to be. At the very end, I can just go back. I can take it away with a rubber. And sometimes it looks good to kind of rub away and then draw back over the part that you've rubbed out, and you're going to get a nice soft little bit of a blending kind of technique going on. So I think that looks much better than smudging it with your fingers. And now I've come to the point where I'm going to get a really light part of my drawing. So I'm not going to add too much dark to my nose. Also, I need to get that shade on so I can take some away if I decide I want to make it darker later on. And I'm going to add some really dark shade around there, around the eye. And now you can see it's starting to take on a more of a 3D form. And I'm not worrying at this point, too much how it's looking. I'm just following my photo, and I'm thinking around the eye, it's quite dark, and then it gets lighter